Hopefully you will all know me. I'm the founder of Blackbullion. We're super excited to have you all join us. I'm even more excited to introduce Craig DeVos, who's the program manager at Young People's Gambling Harm Prevention Program at GamCare, doing really, really important work. Many of you, I am sure, will be familiar with GamCare, so we are really excited to have Craig. He's the program manager, and both GamCare and YGAM passionately believe that education on the risks associated with gambling is an essential part of tackling gambling related harms, and that gambling should have parity with education around other risky behaviors like drinking, smoking, and taking drugs. And we completely agree, which is why we're so delighted to have him here. I am going to shut up and mind the chat function, which again is at the bottom of your screen. Pop in anything and we will ask Craig questions after his presentation. But Craig DeVos, thank you so much for having us, and the mic is all yours.
Thanks for the wonderful introduction. I've managed to unmute myself, which is a great first step. So I thought to start with, I'd take you through a little bit about GamCare and what we do. I'm just trying to shift all of the little pictures out of the way. So GamCare was founded in 1997, and we're the leading national provider of free information, advice, and support for anyone affected by gambling-related harm. We run the National Gambling Helpline, which is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to provide support to people who are experiencing gambling-related harms, either if they are the gambler themselves or if they're being affected by other people's gambling. We offer a range of tailored treatment options for people who are experiencing harm. We also work with the gambling industry, so we offer the Safer Gambling Standards accreditation, and we deliver social responsibility training to gambling operators. And we also deliver educational programs to professionals, such as the youth program, which is the one that I run. But we've also got a women's program and a criminal justice program as well. So today I'm hopefully going to enhance your knowledge in the area of esports by explaining what they are. I'm going to then take you through some of the data behind esports, particularly around participation, gambling industry figures, and net worth, just to give you some idea of the current and future scale of esports. I will then talk through some of the risks to young people that are of particular concern to us at GamCare. And then finally, I'll talk through some support options that are available should you or anyone you might work with encounter someone who needs signposting to cope with any issues related to what we're talking about today. So I thought it would be good to add a little bit of context behind how GamCare, and in particular the youth program, have developed such a high level of knowledge in this area. I know that you've had a little bit of information on what you see on the screen, but I'll talk you through it anyway, because it's quite good to put it into context. So as the youth program developed, we realized we needed to have a good knowledge and also deliver content to both young people and professionals on what we call digital harms. So by digital harms, we're referring to activities that are gambling-like or indeed involve elements of gambling within the wider context of their participation methods. So loot boxes are a particular concern, as the mechanics behind these in-game features will often utilize the same psychological techniques as popular gambling activities, such as slot machines. So you see bright lights, enticing sounds, that special offers, that kind of thing. And now we're seeing studies that are linking spending on loot boxes to people who have developed problems, problematic gambling behaviors. There is still a lack of research into the extent of the harm this type of activity is having on young people, but we are seeing bits of research emerge now, which is really good to see. Loot box mechanics would generally speaking involve players risking an item of value, either credits earned or even purchases with real world money, to open something that has an element of chance attached with the hope of winning something of value. The items might enhance the gameplay, the cosmetics of the character, and these can often be traded and gambled on other platforms. So we're certainly concerned about the long-term impact a young person's heavy participation in loot box purchasing might be having on their well-being. We're also particularly concerned about skins betting. So essentially a skin is a virtual item obtained usually by opening a loot box or trading on virtual marketplaces. It could be a weapon, an item of clothing, or anything that changes the appearance of a character or an item within the game, but adds no other enhancement other than cosmetic. So the issue here is that it's been proven very easy for a young person under the age of 18 to go through a number of steps with the ultimate goal of being able to gamble on unregulated websites that would otherwise be illegal in the UK. We're also pretty worried about the effect that advertising and social media are having on young people. So the UK's Gambling Act is going through a well-publicised and welcome review currently. And advertising is one of the main areas where we're likely to see significant changes. The main concerns currently are the targeting of young people by gambling operators and aspects of their advertising and their social media presence. We see them often using celebrities or other influencers to increase their subscriber bases and enhance the next generation of gambler. Entice the next generation of gambler. Other concerns with social media includes the glamorizing of gambling on platforms such as Twitch, where young people are able to watch their favorite content creator or influencer participate in gambling activities or opening loot boxes, but on an extreme level. We've also seen a bit of an emerging concern, particularly around the influence social media content is having on the uptake of trading activities, including cryptocurrency and NFTs. Whilst this is not inherently gambling nor regulated as gambling, there are clearly many parallels, and we're even seeing a rise in calls to our helpline with people being harmed by these types of investment activities. And then finally, esports. So we, of course, cover esports as somewhat of an emerging topic, just as the popularity increases amongst young people. So what is an esport? So esports are essentially a form of sport competition using video games in a nutshell. So they often take the form of organized multiplayer video game competitions, particularly between professional players, and this could be either individually or in team competitions. So technically, anyone that plays video games could argue that they are an esports player, but in reality, there's around 40% of players actually play esports just casually or socially, but there are 60% that play in ranked matches or online tournaments. Most importantly, 0.00001% are professional players, so that are contracted to a professional team or are financially compensated for playing video games. So that's a very, very low number. Some of the more popular esports are shown in the image. So League of Legends, Defense of the Ancients 2, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Overwatch, and StarCraft 2. There is even a tournament for Super Smash Bros. From the Super Mario franchise, and of course Fortnite, which we all know is a hugely popular game with young people. So how popular are esports? I mean, as you can see by the image, these tournaments do attract a significant following. which packs out arenas around the world. From what I could find when I was researching for this presentation, the highest live attendance for any esports tournament was recorded at an event in Katowice in Poland in 2017, where 174,000 fans attended the events and the surrounding expo. But sports stadiums and other arenas often sell out and number sort of in excess of 40,000 fans going to one event. The largest peak online audience for an esports tournament is recorded at nearly 5.5 million, which was for the Free Fire World Series final in 2021. Free Fire is an ultimate survival shooter game, apparently, which is only available on mobile platform, which is actually causing a bit of a stir because competition's heating up between traditional gaming platforms and mobile offerings. And then also there was a League of Legends tournament in 2018, which achieved 60 million viewers online over the course of the tournament. And within that, there was 2 billion hours of footage watched across the entire length of the event. And then often the online platform Twitch will be the supplier of most of the viewers there. And then the largest prize pool for an esports tournament I could find was just over 40 million US for the 2021's the International, which is the World Championship for Defense of the Ancients 2. Just to put that in context, I think one of the early esports tournaments, the winner got a Rolex watch, which is quite significantly, although a very nice watch, quite significantly less in value. I wanted to show a quick esports promotional video just to give you a visual idea of what the world of esports looks like. There are some videos out there that are a lot more assaulting to the senses, but I think this one's a little bit calmer to some that I've seen. So hopefully the sound works and everything goes okay.
But he needs mega. Oh, never I've seen one. A G2 or aced.
Second time Pronex with one frame. He's free.
The world.
Hopefully everyone saw that okay. So some of the things you might have noticed in the video, other than the huge numbers that they were referring to, are players being referred to as athletes. So there's a lot of truth to this, actually, as professional teams, we'll often mirror what you might see in a Formula One team or a cycling team. So they've got dietitians, they've got physios, they've got personal trainers, psychologists, uniforms, like the list goes on. It really is an intense full-time job to maintain the levels of concentration and the reactions required to be among the best gamers. Another thing that really stood out for me is the excitement levels of the crowd and the commentators and all the players as well. It's really comparable to what you might see in other elite sports. But I don't know about you, I had no idea what was going on. But everyone in the crowd seemed to know. So yeah, it's really quite eye-opening when you see it from that perspective. So now we know what esports are. I wanted to talk through some of the numbers associated with esports. Oh, I've lost my presenter notes. bear with me. So the graphic we're looking at here are the top 10 most popular sports in the world in terms of the global audience. So as you can see, esports is up there in the top 10 already, ahead of, if you combined the American football and rugby audience. I don't know why they combine that, but it's the same shaped ball, I guess. But, you know, it's already ahead of that and golf. So it is quite a popular sport already. And it's projected to grow to around 577 million global audience by 2024. What's quite interesting is the growth in gambling, gross spend and gambling, should I say. So gambling on esports is also experiencing significant growth, and compared to other forms of gambling, it's still very small, particularly in the UK. So the gross yield in May 2020 was 4.6 million, but you compare that with slots, which is 184 million. So it's got a way to go before it gets up to the higher spend activities. But what was really interesting, and you might be able to tell by those dates, when we went into the first lockdown, it became really popular as sports that would usually be played in person were no longer able to be played, therefore no longer able to be betted on. So gamblers, once they kind of took stock of what was happening, turned to esports, which could still run in the middle of a pandemic, as people could play that from the comfort of their living room. So it is also being seen live streamed on BBC Sports. I've seen it. So it is becoming a bit more mainstream, and that can only increase its popularity. So yeah, this graphic shows the rise in gambling. And during the first lockdown, it rose by nearly 3,000% as a direct result of the COVID outbreak. So in future, we might see esports betting becoming the norm. So similar to how people place bets on horses or football matches, esports could well catch up and even replace some of these sports betting markets. I should say you still need to be 18 to place a bet on esports, but a lot of the major operators offer odds on esports events. So what are the risks? So young people could be at risk through the rise in popularity of esports in a number of different ways. And we can relate this to what we see with gambling related harm in general. So financial impacts are quite an obvious one, but these can materialize in a number of different ways when it comes to young people. But generally, they're attached to the amount of money required within certain games to advance, or indeed to get the best players or weapons, or even just to create a look that attracts attention within the game. So the risks here are evident, as to achieve success quickly requires either a lot of money spent within the game or a lot of time spent playing the game. So a young person could have aspirations to become a professional video gamer in the world of esports, but the reality is only a tiny number of gamers reach that level. So this could end up having a massive impact on the young person's and their family's finances. The developmental impacts that we see are very much tied to the amount of time a young person might spend playing the game. So large amounts of time spent playing is likely to impact their educational activities, so exams, studying, homework, truancy levels, to name a few. But it could also mean that they withdraw from other activities outside of school, so sports, youth clubs, other forms of exercise, etc. We see strain on the young people's relationships. They can materialize from the financial situation, particularly as we hear a lot of stories of young people spending money on games without their parents' or carers' knowledge. And it's very easy to do if you've got a purchase card attached to your Xbox account, for example, and there's no parental controls on that. Then quite often parents get a bit of a shock at the end of the month when a bill for over £1,000 comes in, because their young person's been able to spend money within the games without their knowledge. Sometimes it's even from a willing parent who might submit to the demands for money to purchase items or credits in order to avoid a difficult situation with their child. So we often hear of behavioural issues with children who game a lot. And then other strains on relationships can develop from the amount of time spent on the game. So it can also deteriorate the parent's resolve to try and motivate their child to attend other activities instead of spending time playing video games. The young person may also lose friendships or other peer relationships as a result of their drive to become the best gamer possible. The impact on a young person's well-being could include physical health issues, so repetitive strain, dietary issues, or just general deterioration in health. The young person can develop mental health issues as they become more isolated from their peers and the outside world. They may also experience emotional issues, such as increased anger towards anyone who might interfere with their aspirations. And across the board, there are safeguarding issues that are linked to this type of activity. So it should be recognised that the world of online gaming brings with it certain risks to a young person's safety. So there's many aspects that pose safeguarding issues, such as the interactions between players, either in the game or via chat rooms, where it's difficult to tell the age of the person you're engaging with and what their intentions are. Young people that access skins trading and betting sites have the potential to come into contact with large sums of money, but also lose significant amounts of money as well. And there are often incentives to gain extra credits by referring friends, so they might be inadvertently signing up others to be exposed to these dangers. And finally, it's worth noting that the world of gaming does have some recognised positive effects on young people as well. So the online communities that can pose dangers also can provide a social lifeline to some young people who find it difficult to engage with their peers on certain levels. There is also research that reveals the many advantages video games provide for young people with special educational needs, such as aiding communication, improving motor skills, developing routines, and also aiding their reading and writing abilities. So it's not all bad, we should keep that in mind. I wanted to talk about probably the most serious risk to young people who are gamers, which is gaming disorder. So the main difference between gambling and gaming disorder is simple. It's money versus time. So the majority of gambling that takes place within the video gaming industry involves staking either real world money or virtual items on aspects involving chance. Whereas gaming disorder is specifically related to the amount of time someone spends playing video games. Gaming disorder is not something that GamCare looks at the moment. We sort of stick to the sort of gambling elements, but I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a second. But for gaming disorder, treatment can sometimes be found through local child and adolescent mental health services. And the NHS runs the National Centre for Gaming Disorders, which provides treatment for problem gamers living in England and Wales, aged 13 and upwards. So they assess and treat the needs of problem gamers as well as their family members or carers. And then YGAM also have some really good advice on their Parents Hub around encouraging different activities and strategies that parents can use to try and get their child away from spending so much time gaming. And then Parent Zone as well is a really good website that has advice And they've conducted some really thorough research into the impact of video gaming as well. And of course, GamCare can offer support to young people as well. So as part of the Young People's Gambling Harm Prevention Programme, we've set up the first national treatment service for young people aged between 11 and 18 who are experiencing gambling-related harm, and that includes spending money within games. I won't walk through the entire service model. The little person normally climbs the stairs, but I know we're a little bit short on time. So it's worth noting that, as I said, we do offer support to young people affected by things related to esports, but it's generally related to the spending on loot boxes. So referrals can be directed by the young person themselves, or they can be made on their behalf by a trusted adult. These can come either through the National Gambling Helpline, or we've got referral forms and direct contact details on the GamCare website, and also the bigdeal.org.uk website, which is our youth-facing platform. A young person, when they come into the service, will receive what we call omni-channel support, which essentially means we'll contact them and support them via their preferred method of communication. A support lead will have an initial conversation with the young person to understand their concerns. We want to make this a relaxed and non-committal format, so that young people feel confident coming forwards. And then following this conversation, the support lead will decide with the young person whether they are happy to receive a brief intervention where we might provide advice, suggest some things they can do to support themselves, or whether indeed they want a structured program of support. So this involves creating an action plan with input from the young person, and then input from the support lead, using evidence-led approaches to help them get to a point where they feel better about their situation. In some cases, we see with young people more intensive support is required. There are a lot of complex issues going on. So we'll enlist the help of outside agencies with a more specialised remit to provide a wraparound care to the young person if this is not in place already. And then just to note, any young person who enters our support service will be provided with follow-on care to ensure their progress is monitored and they have the opportunity to re-enter the service at any point in the future. Looking at the stats from referrals, so currently around 17% of our referrals are to do with young people experiencing issues because of gaming specifically. That doesn't include professionals or parents contacting the service, so that might push the number up to around 20 to 25% are sort of gaming based. And then we've also got our youth program offer, which I wanted to run through quickly as well. So we've got education and training leads all across the country who deliver CPD accredited training free of charge to any professionals who work with young people. It can be between 1 and 3 hours, depending on what you want. We can tailor sessions specifically to the organisation's needs. We also deliver free workshops directly to young people, which includes the digital harms element that I spoke about before. And then we also run workshops for parents, which are more discussion based, just to give them confidence to have conversations about gambling and gaming. Generally, gaming's a more popular topic actually, because a lot of them will resonate with having young people who game. So that's the end of my presentation. I thought I'd give a few contact details, which might be helpful. So we've got the National Gambling Helpline, the Young People's Support Service. Anyone can email that email address if they've got any questions about a young person they might be concerned about. I mentioned Big Deal before. So this has dedicated information for young people on gambling and gaming. but also has a parents and professionals section as well. And then if anyone's interested in booking a workshop for young people or training for their staff, contact hello@bigdeal, or you can email me directly if you've got any questions about anything, and I will try my best to put you in the right direction.